first. All right. So let's see what the visual elements are. So these are visual elements the artists use when they make a work of art. So in the visual elements, there are line, shape and mass, light, texture and pattern, space, color, and time and motion. So today we will see line, shape and mass, light, texture and pattern, and space. And next week, we are going to continue to see color and time and motion. So first, let's see the line. So a line is a path traced by a moving point. There are three primary functions of line art. So first function is to record the borders of form. And the next function is to describe surfaces and shapes. And the third function is to convey direction and motion. So let's see how it works. Good morning. Can you change your name? Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Give me 1 second, everyone. I forgot to take a picture of your attendance. So, all right. Perfect. And there are two types of line in art. So first one is contour line. So which is the perceived line that marks the border of an object in space. And the second one is outline, which is the edge of a shape or figure depicted by an actual line drawn or painted on the surface. So let me show you how they are different in the visual images. So like this. So they look different like this. What's the difference, everyone, between the contour line and outline?
The outline has a, you can actually see where it's bordered.
Yes.
And or it just makes like a dot. So it doesn't have a border around it.
Perfect. Very good. So as you can see, there is no defined line on the contour line image, right? However, we can easily recognize it is a circle with the shading. So that calls contour line. And on the other hand, the right circle, it has defined line. So we can recognize a circle shape with the defined line. So that calls outline. Very good. And there is an implied line. So implied line is similar with the contour line. An implied line is defined as a line that suggests the edge of an object or a plane within an object. So the line may be broken by intermittent marks. It may be defined by value, color, or texture, or it may not be visible at all. So with any implied line, our brain interprets that the line must exist. So this is a powerful tool that any artist can use. So let's see the example. So the left drawing has defined lines. So following the apple's outline. However, so there is no defined line on the right apple drawing. And nevertheless, our eyes can imagine the outline of the apple because of the, the shading skill called chiaroscuro. So chiaroscuro means a value mask drawing with the lightness and the darkness shading technique. So that calls implied lines. And here's another example of implied lines. So on the left drawing, so there is a there are any defined line following this this road, right? There's no defined line at all. However, we can imagine there is a road by the vertical lines, which is supporting the road shape. And also, let's look at the right image. So this is a feather drawing with dots, and there is no line in the feather drawing. However, the dots spread in the feather shape in it, so we can imagine there is a feather. So that is implied line. And now let's see direction and movement by lines. The direction of a line can convey mood. So the first one is a sunset image with the horizontal lines. Horizontal lines are calm and quiet in art. And the next one is vertical lines. So vertical lines suggest more a potential for movement in art. And the last one is diagonal line. So diagonal lines strongly suggest movement and give more a feeling of vitality to a picture. So let me show you an example to show the direction and the movement in art. So this is a Peter Paul Rubens oil painting, the Raising the Cross. So this is a Baroque style painting in 17th century. The Baroque art movement arose after the Renaissance during the age of colonial settlement. The Baroque's art features shows motion, emotion, turbulence, grandeur, and contrast. So it looks very dynamic. Okay, so here's a quiz. Can you guess which direction of line we can find in this painting? We just saw these three lines: horizontal, vertical, and diagonal. Which lines can you find in this painting?
Vertical line.
Diagonal, perfect. Diagonal lines like this. Like this. It shows a dramatic and a strong movement. Very nice. Okay, now let's move on to the shape and mass. So a shape means a two-dimensional form, and the mass means a three-dimensional form. So like this. A shape consists of width and height, and each shape within the image occupies an area with identifiable boundaries, and boundaries may be created by a line. A mass is a three-dimensional form that occupies a volume of space. It consists of width, height, and depth. And shapes can be classified into two types, geometric and organic. So geometric shapes are composed of regular lines and curves, like the circle, square, rectangle, or triangle like this. However, organic shapes are made up of unpredictable, irregular lines that suggest the natural world, like this. And in art, we can divide an image as positive shapes and negative shapes to make contrast. So the positive shapes are the shape of the actual object. So in this image, the chair is the positive shape. And the negative shapes are the shapes in between the object. It can be called the background. So that's negative shape. And sometimes it calls as figure and ground. It's just the same as positive and the negative shape. So figure is the object part, and it is the positive shapes. And the ground means background, like the negative shapes. And like line, there is an implied shape in art. An implied shape is a shape that does not physically exist, but it is suggested through the psychological connection of dots, lines, areas, or their edges. So let me show you an example. So which shape can you see in the center of this image?
Triangle.
Triangle, yes, triangle. So there was not physical triangle shape in this image, right? But you just recognized there is a triangle by psychological connection of the edges. That calls implied shapes. So let's see another example. So this is Raphael's painting, the Madonna of the Meadow. Raphael is one of the masters of the Renaissance in 16th century. So this oil painting was produced in 1505 in Venice. The Madonna of the Meadows exemplifies a religious theme. So it depicts Mother Mary with Jesus Christ and John the Baptist. In this painting, Mary is guarding the two lovely children. So as you can see, the shape physically doesn't exist. So it is our eye movement in the grouping of figures, geometric shape composition, and it was a popular device to provide unity during the Renaissance. Can you guess which implied shape in this painting? Focus on the
rectangle.
It's close, but
triangle. I mean a triangle.
Oh,
right,
triangle. That's right, triangle. Perfect. Yes, yes, like this. See, so that is called implied shape. And let's move on to the light. So the light is represented in works of two-dimensional art to define and describe figures and spaces. By using light, we can make a space and three-dimensional mass on the two-dimensional surface. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, everyone. Please excuse me. I think I forgot to turn off the gas. It smells like something is burning. Excuse me. Sorry, everyone. Oh my gosh. I was close to burn my house.
Are you okay?
Yeah, everything is okay. Yeah, it was just close.
It happens sometimes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot.
Good thing you smelt it.
Yeah, nothing was happened. Just burn the pot. All right. So let's see the light again. So by using light, we can make a space and three-dimensional mass on the two-dimensional surface. And like other elements we learned in the previous video, light has implied light. So implied light means modeling mass in two dimensions. Artists use light and shadow to model objects in two-dimensional works, meaning to give them a three-dimensional appearance. So by using this value scale, so value scale is defined as the relative lightness or darkness of a color. It is an important tool for the designer and an artist in the way that it defines form and creates spatial illusions. So contrast of value separates objects in space, while gradation of value suggests mass and contour of a contiguous surface. So this is an example to show implied light modeling mass drawing by the Leonardo da Vinci of the Renaissance. So, as you can see, there is no actual light, but you can see there is a light on the drawing. It's by the value scale, the shading technique. So that technique calls chiaroscuro. Let me just type it here. Pen. Chiaroscuro. So chiaroscuro means light and dark again. So it is discovered and perfected by Italian painters during the Renaissance. With chiaroscuro, artists employ value lights and darks to record contrast of light and shadow in the natural world, contrast then model mass for our eyes. So one of the great masters of chiaroscuro was Leonardo da Vinci. So for doing perfect modeling mass, artists can use this kind of drawing skills. Hatching with a single direction, cross hatching with the multiple direction drawing lines, and stippling with dots drawing. And sometimes artists can make modeling masks with smudge technique. And now we are going to see the fourth visual elements in art, texture and pattern. So these are the actual texture. So actual texture is literally tactile, a quality we can experience through touch. And there is a visual texture. So visual texture refers to an implied sense of texture that the artist creates through the use of various artistic elements, such as line, shading, and color. So let me show you an example. So this is a painting. However, with the artist's excellent painting technique, we can feel the texture of the image. Now the wood wall on the background looks like real, and a little stuff on the shelf, and everything looks very realistic. That calls visual texture. And pattern. So pattern is any decorative, repetitive motif or design in abstract ideas. So as such, the elements of a pattern repeat in a predictable manner. A geometric pattern is a kind of a pattern formed of geometric shapes and typically repeated like a wallpaper design like this, or carpet. And the fifth visual element is space. So sculpture, architecture, and all other forms with mass exist in a three-dimensional space. That is the actual space in which our bodies also stand. So these works of art take their character from the ways in which they curve out volumes of space within and around them. So that was the actual three-dimensional space. And many artists can create this implied space on the two-dimensional surface. And there are three types of implied space techniques. So this is the first technique, linear perspective. So, so Leonardo da Vinci of the Renaissance, he discovered this technique to show a space on the two-dimensional surface. So the left one, this one, is a one-point linear perspective with vanishing point on the center of the implied space. So this is a good perspective technique for compacting many objects in a limited space. So we're gonna learn this linear perspective later when we learn Renaissance in detail. And the next implied space technique is foreshortening. So this is also, one of the Renaissance artist perspective technique. With foreshortening, artists can make the implied space more dynamic. So foreshortening is a technique used in perspective to create the illusion of an object receding strongly into the distance or background. So the illusion is created by the object appearing shorter than it is in reality. So making it seem compressed like this. So it is an excellent way to maximize the depth and the dimension of paintings and drawings. And the third and the last perspective technique by the Renaissance for the implied space is atmospheric perspective. So it indicates that as an object recedes into the distance relative to the viewer, we see that object with receded clarity, value, and color saturation. So the front objects are clear, and the artist used a solid color, and then when you see the background, so the artist reduced the saturation of the color, so it feels like it's far away. Okay, so we're gonna continue to see the rest of the visual elements next week. And we have a discussion today. All right. So please go to week 2. And then go find discussion 2.2. So this is the today's discussion topic. This is a fresco painting by Raphael, who is one of the masters of the Renaissance, the School of Athens. So many Renaissance artists discovered and developed diverse techniques to show three-dimensional appearances on two-dimensional surface. So which technique did Raphael use to create a space in this technique? So please write the techniques and tell us why you think he used that techniques for this painting. So here's a hint. We just learned space, right? We just learned 3 ways to create the implied space on the two-dimensional surface. So first one was linear perspective, and the next one is foreshortening, and the last one is atmospheric perspective. So the answer is one of them. So take a look at the painting again, and please write the answer. And
could it have also been the usage of light?
Oh, you can focus on the light as well. But the point is, the topic's point is, to tell the technique to show the three-dimensional appearances on the two-dimensional surface. You can also add you can also talk about the light, but please write one of the technique he used in this painting to create the three-dimensional appearance. Okay.
Professor,
What was the
Yeah.
other technique again?
can you go back to the 14 she showed us? Like the one you said, this painting is one, like 14 that you show us, and you said the answer is one of them. Can you go back to them, please?
Of course. So this is an actual space. And then the Renaissance masters used 3 types of implied space to create the three-dimensional appearance on the two-dimensional surface. So this is the first one, linear perspective. And the next one is foreshortening.
Okay.
And then last one is atmospheric perspective.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
You're welcome. And also you can, mention any other visual element you can see in this painting.
The painting.
Yeah. All right. Any question?